Hi, this is a spring 2022, May 15 garden report. I will give reports on how the garden does throughout the year, spring, summer, fall, and even give some view of what the garden looks like in the wintertime. So this is my spring report for this season of 2022, and I'm reporting May 15 here in Missoula, Montana. I started several seeds in the house under a planting light in little containers with potting soil. The seeds I planted were tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, cabbage, kale, acorn, and nasturtiums. I included nasturtiums, they're a flower, because they seem to have a reputation for keeping some garden pests away. And they're very beautiful, and you can eat them. You can eat the leaves and you can eat the flowers. I also got potato cuttings the latter part of April and planted those cuttings in my garden, both the front yard and the backyard, April 24. They always do well when I plant them in late April. I planted them April 25th last year, so April 24 was on a Sunday, and I decided it was a good day to plant those cuttings. I trust that they will turn out as well as they did last year. Potatoes always seem to grow well. They have large plants with purple flowers and give a good harvest. I like to plant purple or blue potatoes because they're the healthiest. They have the most bioflavonoids, the most antioxidants, and they're not so sugary, I guess. And they cook well and bake well. So these are the things that I started from seed. They all came up except the acorn. The acorns will probably come up planted directly into the garden by seed. They don't seem to like being planted in the house in mid-March. At least mine didn't come up at all. But I understand that if you plant acorn seed directly into the garden when the temperatures are safe, when it's still cool but it's not freezing, that the seeds will come up and do just as well. I also planted directly into the garden today yellow crookneck squash directly, and I think they'll do just as well as the acorns. The problem is that my garden isn't very big. It's a small town lot garden. But I do the best I can with it. And I don't know that the soil is the best soil for gardens, but I get as much as I can out of my yard. I think it's good to be as self-sufficient as possible this day and age. So I planted spinach in the greenhouse here. It was very late April, the very end of April, and they are now this tall, and they all came up. I'm very pleased. And then today, May 15, 2 weeks or 2.5, 3 weeks later, I planted some more spinach seed in the back garden box of the greenhouse. And I expect them to come up too. I don't think it's too hot for them to come up. Apparently the spinach seed responds to coming up in temperatures that are of the soil that are between 40 and 70 degrees. You don't want the soil to be too hot. They don't seem to germinate as well when it's too hot or when it's too cold. So I also would like to say here that I took 2 vegetables that I bought from the grocery store, romaine lettuce and celery, and I used the vegetables and left about this much at the ends, and took those cut ends and soaked them in water, and then planted them in soil. And I'm very pleased and very surprised that they actually started to produce leaves, and I will show you that in a moment here. So let's see what else. Today I also planted some kale seed in the garden directly, even though I also planted kale that came up from seed in the house, and I planted them as seedlings today. So both kale seed and kale seedlings were planted today. So let me show you what the greenhouse looks like. Here. Here is my box of spinach that I planted May 15. The end of April. And over here is the box I planted seeds in, spinach seeds in, today, May 15th. Down here are cuttings of the romaine lettuce and the celery. And this is how they turned out when I planted those kind of cuttings in the soil in little pots. I was very pleased that I got some produce out of that. Over here, some basil that I have going, and I also planted them from seed in the middle of March, and they're just now coming up in the pots. I transplanted, no, I didn't transplant them. I raised them in the pots from the beginning, but they were planted in the middle of March, and they took this long to come up, which is kind of weird. And then over here are some nasturtiums. Nasturtiums love to stretch their vines all over the place. So I learned not to plant too many, because last year in the greenhouse I planted a lot of nasturtiums, and they just grew up and they took over the greenhouse. They grew all over the place. In here I planted some extra tomato seedlings that I didn't have room for in the pots outside of the garden. And there's some greens here growing in this subterranean box. Actually is what this is. So this is what my greenhouse looks like, standing back. And then outside of the greenhouse is my little town lot garden. It's very modest. I can't grow a lot here in town, but I have potatoes growing along the fence here, and then I have little teeny cabbage seedlings planted along the side next to them, and then some zucchini seedlings planted along here. Can't see them very well, but they're there. Some acorn seeds directly sown into the garden right here, and some center squash crooknecks planted by seed right at the edge of the garden. And hopefully I can get them to spread to the grass. Over here I have the kale plants, seedlings that I started in the house. And here is the parsley box. I had to take some parsley out of this box to plant the kale next to it. Over here I have the pots of the little tomato seedlings. They're really small, even though they were planted in the latter half of March. They didn't grow very big yet, but I think they'll do okay. They seem to be happy in these pots. So, yeah. Over here I have the cucumber seedlings. And hopefully they'll respond to being planted in pots this size. They seemed to do okay last year in pots this size. So I'm hoping for them to produce a lot of cucumbers. I might maybe be even able to make pickles. Here's where I planted some more kale seedlings. And let's see. And here is a collard green plant that has, it's a volunteer collard green plant that has matured early and wants to go into flowers and will go to seed early. All these extra green plants in the garden that are green are collard greens, and they like to come up on their own and survive all year round. Almost. You can find them under the snow, still green and still edible. And the same is true for the parsley plants over here. So that's kind of interesting, I think. Anyway, that is my small town garden report, spring 2022, May 15. I also should mention that my front yard has 4 planter boxes with the same kind of potatoes I planted here in the backyard, blue potatoes. And I also have 3 apple trees. 2 of them are semi-dwarfs, and I didn't realize when I bought those trees from the nursery that they produce only every other year. The 3rd apple tree I have, though, is a McIntosh, and it produces every year. It's just a little younger than those trees, so they don't produce. This McIntosh tree doesn't produce as many apples yet. It's still growing. It has some shade issues because of the Scotch pine that grows in the front yard. I love that Scotch pine. The birds love it, the squirrels love it. It's beautiful. I wake up, look out my window and see it every day. It's just very beautiful and comforting to see that tree. But it does shade my 3rd apple tree, the McIntosh, somewhat. I also have 6 gooseberry bushes in the front yard, just behind a teeny rock wall that lines the sidewalk. So this is my both front and backyard garden report, year 2022, spring, May 15. Thanks for watching. Bye.